Troy Ave the new 50 Cent? Some might agree, some might not. Either way, I'm gonna talk about it. First off though, don't take it too literal. 50 Cent is one of my favorite rappers, and I'm not really the type to be like, so-and-so is the new so-and-so, personally. I typically just be enjoying the music. But I've seen several comments talking about the similarities between these two, and I thought it was an interesting topic to get into.
Go back to what 50 Cent told me. He said, yo, what I see, he said, with you, what I see, your opportunities are endless. He said, there's nothing you can't do. He said, because that's what I see for myself. He said, look at all the shit I'm doing. And he said, look, like, we damn near the same person. I'm the closest thing that you're going to find coming through in the rap game to 50 since then. You know what I mean? Yeah. I dropped the illest album, and I think most of the comparisons that we was getting was because of the energy I was bringing. Like, man, I don't give a fuck. I'm that nigga. I'm from New York. What's up? Everybody else want to dick ride and sound like they from somebody else, and I'm gonna call it out. That ain't what the city sound like. I called it out, whatever. I'm cool. I don't need to be fake friends and all that shit like that.
Rapper comparisons are nothing new. Nas got compared to Rakim, Nicki Minaj got compared to Lil Kim, and the list goes on. I'm going to go over their backstories a little bit, then go into their similarities, and give you my personal opinion. Starting off, we have Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, from Southside Jamaica, Queens, New York, the head of the rap group G-Unit and record label G-Unit Records. He started off as a young kid hustling drugs on the streets, then started to break into the rap game with the help of Jam Master Jay, the DJ from the iconic group Run DMC. He was briefly signed to his record label, JMJ Records, and featured on the Onyx song React from their third album, Shut 'Em Down, released in 1998. Some even say that the reason Jam Master Jay was murdered was because of him mentoring and signing 50 to his label, despite 50 being blackballed from the industry. The infamous beef with fellow Queens rapper Ja Rule began in 1999, which I've covered extensively on the channel, so check that video out for more details. Then in May 2000, before his debut album Power the Dollar was due to be released, he was shot outside his grandmother's home, which led to the album being shelved and him being dropped from Columbia Records. Fast forward a few years, and he's one of the biggest rappers of all time with a diamond-selling album, G-Unit Records, G-Unit Clothing, and several TV and film roles. Now on to Roland Collins, aka Troy Ave from Brooklyn, who got his name from Troy Avenue, also in Brooklyn. He got his start drug dealing as well. I mean, look at his mixtape series, Bricks in My Backpack and White Christmas. Not to mention he literally refers to himself as Dope Boy Troy in his music. Which leads me to one of the first similarities between the two. Just like 50 did with himself in G-Unit, Troy also released several mixtapes before putting out his official studio album. You could say that 50 Cent and G-Unit really paved the way for other rappers, especially from New York, to break out on the mixtape scene. Considering the blackballing that happened in the industry to 50 due to the whole Murder Inc. beef, he had to get his name out there somehow. Mixtape after mixtape was apparently the thing to do. 50 officially came onto the mixtape scene with the mixtape Guess Who's Back, released in 2002, and Troy Ave with his mixtape I'm in Traffic in 2009. By this point, 50 had released 4 albums, several mixtapes, been in a decade-long beef of Ja Rule, and cemented his name in the industry with hit after hit, several business deals, and was slowly fading out of music on a commercial level and more into his other ventures. Let's get into the next and probably most obvious example of Troy being the new 50. The fact that Troy Ave has been on songs of not only Lloyd Banks and Tony Yayo of G-Unit, but also 50 Cent himself. In 2013, he released the track Show Me Love featuring Tony Yayo. The chorus of the song is an interpolation of the chorus from one of 50 Cent's most popular songs, In the Club, from Get Rich or Die Tryin'. 50 spoke on the song in interviews, essentially stating that he thinks it's cool and that he hears himself in it, but that he likes to see artists doing something completely their own. In 2013, 10 years after 50 Cent released Get Rich or Die Tryin', Troy Ave released his own debut album, New York City, the album. On it is a song titled Piggy Bank. If you know 50's music at all, then you know that he has a song with the same name on his second album, Massacre. Of course, both tracks feature the respective rappers talking about getting money. Also on the album, there's the track Your Style, and on the video version of the song, Lloyd Banks has a verse and appears in the video. Then in 2014, G-Unit reunited and included a new member, Kid Kid, who was formerly in the group Squad Up with Lil Wayne, and they released the song All About the Drug Money, which had Young Buck, Kid Kid, and Tony Yayo rapping over the beat to the track All About the Money, the Troy Ave song on which he rapped to the beat from fellow New York rapper Manolo Rose's song Dope Man, which started a beef between the two. Like I mentioned earlier, Troy and 50 have a song together also, that being the track Bang Bang from Troy Ave's second album Major Without a Deal, released in 2015. On the song, Troy has the lines, "People say I sound like Fifth. Okay, dummy, I guess I sound like I'm just getting money. Let me check. Yep, money I got." Which is a reference to the 50 Cent comparisons that he was getting and 50 Cent's hit single I Get Money from his third album, Curtis. When Troy Ave says people say he sound like 50, some of those people definitely be in the comment section of these songs. There's plenty of comments talking about how Troy should sign into 50 or how he and G Unit should do songs together, so on and so forth. Outside of doing tracks together, does Troy Ave musically compare to 50 Cent? Well, maybe not if we're talking mainstream popularity and sales, but strictly looking at the music, yeah, I definitely see the 50 Cent influence. It's undeniable. Troy's music is full of braggadocious bars about bringing that New York feel back. Case in point, tracks like Classic Feel, the intro to his album New York City, the album, obviously a reference to that New York feel of hip hop. Clearly, if nothing else, you could say that Troy was heavily influenced by 50 among other New York rappers. Another example, in 2016, Troy released the single Chuck Norris, of which he released 2 videos for it. The second one is essentially a mock version of the hit TV show Power, called Powder. Once again a coke dealing reference, and of course, Power is a show produced and starring 50 Cent. So has Troy Ave brought that New York feeling back to you yet like 50 did back in 03? Let's keep it pushing on to the next topic. Along with that New York feel in their music, they have that similar attitude also. Listen to interviews by the two, and you get a strong sense of self-confidence and what some would probably consider arrogance.
Rick Ross's son.
Yeah.
You were out in Vegas at the fight.
Yeah.
Now this was like the worst disrespect that somebody can do. I took a
No.
picture to a parent. You took a picture with his son, holding his son.
Yeah.
But y'all have problems. Just imagine if your baby moms
Right.
had your son with somebody else. It'd be ugly. Definitely.
You know, like, I had a hard time growing up, Clue. You know, my son's mom knows that my actions would reflect that. So she won't do it. She won't chance it. See, people who know me know my capabilities. So they'll stop. You know, people who think I gotta gauge. I gotta look and see who's this guy before, you know, like you get into a space. Because I believe you. When every day I'm hustling, I'm thinking that's who he is. Then you look in the back and go, wait, he's a cop. You serious? And then anything else that comes out is go, okay, I can't even take this serious. I gotta go pimp and curl it. There's something else that's effective and laugh at it.
Nigga went and I sat in jail for 2 months. 2 months. They came to me, I could have been out. Sat in jail for 2 months. Yo, y'all do your job. Y'all do your job.
But you wrote a song basically explaining the whole situation, so why not just write an official statement?
Nah, because that was my real life. That was my real life. My music is always my real life. I talk about what happened to me. You know what I'm saying? If I'm talking about what happened to me and I talk to my fans, that's a different story. In my eyes and in any real nigga eyes. I'm not playing by new shit now. I'm not playing by the rules of what nobody in the industry think, what nobody in the street think. Nigga, because that shit ain't real. Niggas ain't built like me. So you following them. It's like following false prophets. You following a motherfucker that, yeah, nigga, you need to do this, you need to do that. Then when shit hit the fan, they ain't gonna do that. I do whatever the fuck I wanna do. I'm doing whatever Troy Ave wanna do, and that's from here on out. And I don't care, and I'm not apologetic about it.
On top of that, this seemingly unwavering case of what you might call pettiness and ruthlessness to enemies. For one example, take these lines from 50 Cent in the diss track Back Down towards Ja Rule. Any living thing that cannot coexist with the kid must cease existing. Little nigga, now listen. Your mammy, your pappy, that bitch you chasing, you little dirty ass kid, I'll fucking erase him. Now juxtapose that with some of the lines Troy Ave has in his own diss tracks, like Badass, aimed at Joey Badass. Cause I'm a savage, this gonna leave you sad, bitch. Don't get suicidal like your friend, here's a casket. Steve's burning in hell, my burner's in my belt. I'm really killing shit, you niggas killing yourself. Which leads me right into the next thing. You know what else these two have in common? Getting in a rap beef and also getting shot. Yeah, you could say this is unfortunately a bit common for those who rap about that kind of lifestyle, but still, it's a similarity between the two, and I'm gonna mention it here. Just like 50 had beef with numerous people like Ja Rule, Jay-Z, Nas, Game, and others, Troy has been involved in beef with a few people, including rappers like Joey Badass, My Son, and Joe Budden, but perhaps most well known is his long-standing beef with Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, former rapper turned social media personality and podcaster. Just like the 50 Cent and Ja Rule beef, this one has gone on for about a decade now. The beef between the two was mainly a social media situation, but over time turned physical, as their conflict led up to the May 2016 Irving Plaza shooting, which left multiple shot, including Troy, and Ronald McFadder, aka Banger, his friend and bodyguard, shot to death by Taxstone due to a confrontation that occurred in the venue while Troy was there to perform at a T.I. concert. It was a highly publicized situation, given it happening in Manhattan of all places. Troy was dissing him on tracks, but just like 50 wound up doing in his own beefs with people, he used social media to his advantage as well. If you've seen my videos like the one about the 50 Cent and Cameron beef or the 50 and Rick Ross beef, then you know how 50 gets down when it comes to rap beef, especially with the rising popularity of social media. Yeah, you got it. Trolling. Just like 50 trolled his way into a victory of sorts, Troy has done the same thing. One example I'll give you is one of my favorite tracks by him, Press Spray, from his New Pac mixtape. Yes, the mixtape is named after Tupac, and at the time he was considering himself the new Pac in a sense with the whole situation regarding the Irving Plaza shooting, and the artwork itself is the comparison to Tupac. On the track, Troy disses rappers Joe Budden and My Son, as well as former people from his crew, Young Lito and Hovain. In the video, when Troy has a line about Joe Budden's girlfriend, Sin Santana, the video cuts to a clip from the New York City track from Troy's album of the same name, showing the scene from the music video where she's licking Troy's face. Some might call it a petty move, but doesn't that remind you of someone? A certain rapper named after change? Take for example what 50 did when he was beefing with Rick Ross. He reached out to his baby mother and took her shopping and all that mess. Once again, check out the video to get all the full details on that situation. Also, just like 50 used his own platform, thisis50.com, to diss his enemies, Troy does the same with his YouTube channel. On his podcast, The Facto Show, he has dissed people like My Son, Mano, Taxstone, and others. He also released a diss track, Taxi Robber, on which he disses My Son and Mano, and he uses the beat and cadence from 50's hit single, Window Shopper, which itself was a diss to Ja Rule and others. Speaking of rap beef, they have another thing in common. That being the fact that they were both labeled as snitches during what is considered their biggest beef. During 50's beef with Ja Rule, there was the infamous fight and stabbing that occurred at the Hit Factory studio in March of 2000, where Ja and other Murder Inc. members, like Black Child, ran up on G-Unit when they were in the studio. Black Child is on record stating how the fight went down, including him stabbing 50. After the incident, Black Child put out a diss track calling 50 a snitch. Once again, check out the video for the details. Of course, there's also the situation with the song Ghetto Quran that was supposed to be on his originally planned debut album, Power of the Dollar, that had leaked, which had 50 talking about the Supreme Team and other figures in New York. This is something that most other rappers that beef with 50 afterwards would continue, as well, like the Locks and The Game also calling him a snitch on several diss tracks. When it comes to Troy Ave, in May 2016, the Irving Plaza shooting happens, and Troy releases the track Too Legit to Quit, which includes the lines, I'm only loyal to my fam, middle finger from the stand, which of course was seen as him admitting that he would take the stand against Taxstone regarding the murder of Banger and the others shot during the altercation. Fast forward to March 2023, and Troy really took the stand on Taxstone like he said in his song. Even before the trial, however, just like 50's enemies called him a snitch, Troy's rivals were doing the same thing, as well as plenty of commenters on social media. 50 and Troy have had a seemingly back and forth relationship. One minute 50 is simultaneously praising his music and telling him to get his own sound, and then being featured on Troy's second album on the Bang Bang song that I mentioned earlier. On an MTV interview about the show Power, he was asked about Troy Ave, and he said that Troy's single, All About the Money, is Troy's version of I Get Money, and said that at first he wasn't sure if he liked him, but after hearing more of Troy's self in the music, he liked it more, and that Troy essentially grew up in a time period where 50's music was what was hot. and it affected Troy creatively.
I heard Troy Ave say that he's gonna have music in this season as well, and everybody wasn't sure if you and Troy were getting along, and he's gonna have music in the season of Power 2. This is great.
Yeah, for me, I wasn't sure if I liked him. Right. I heard too much of me in the material, and then when I started to hear him in the music, like it's all about the money. It's his I get money. You see what I'm saying? But it's a new version. It's a new way. So I think it pays homage to the things that I've done and already. You gotta look at things. Sometimes you gotta take a step back and take a look at it. Initially when I go, I don't like that. It's too much. Like it's a copy. Then when you step back and you look at it and say, no, it's just he grew up during the time period that was the most effective music out at that point. So it affected him creatively, and it's cool.
Because I know 50 was one of the artists that was really co-signing you in a sense, and championing
not
you.
so much co-signing me, but like just
championing you. He was proud of you. He was pushing you.
That's a fact. After some turmoil, because first Fifth wasn't like giving me the push. He was like, man, Troy, you trying to sound like me or whatever. But then he came around and matter of fact, one of his lawyers that I ended up hiring came see me in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? So, like no matter what, I'm always grateful for the stuff that people did for me.
He even went to visit Troy in the hospital apparently after the 2016 Irving Plaza shooting and seemed to be a supporter of his. However, once Troy implied he'd be taking a stand, 50 made a post on Instagram about the situation, apparently mocking Troy Ave for it. Troy, on the other hand, has kept it pretty consistent on his feelings about 50. He's been on numerous interviews praising 50 and stating how he's been influenced by him.
Cool. So 50 Cent's a big inspiration to you. Has he ever given you any personal advice as far as how to, musically and business wise?
Did 50 give me any advice? I just seen 50 the other night. I don't know. My manager spoke to 5 more than me. He just gave me advice by example. He loved what you do. Yeah, he said he loved my music. He liked what I'm doing.
So it clearly isn't the secret where he gets his rap style from. He's even stated that 50 Cent is his favorite rapper.
Yeah, you to do the ad-libs. Here we go now, whatever. And then they gave me a verse. I'm like, what, nigga? Yeah. Nigga, I wouldn't put out. If they'd have been like, nah, I ain't fucking, because, 50 was my favorite rapper. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he inspired me to do shit.
Now, there's also, of course, reasons that Troy Ave isn't the new 50 like some say. The main argument behind that is probably pretty obvious, so I'm just going to go over it briefly. Despite being similar subject matter-wise and maybe even with their persona, the one big thing that Troy just doesn't have that 50 did is a high level of commercial success. 50's debut album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', as well as his second album, The Massacre, both went multi-platinum, with Get Rich or Die Tryin' going diamond eventually, and even his third album, Curtis, went platinum. Not to mention his fourth album, Before I Self-Destruct, going gold. Troy, on the other hand, hasn't reached nearly that level of sales and recognition. To be fair, once 50 was out of his major record label deal and releasing music on his independent label, we can see a drastic decline also in his sales, like his fifth album, Animal Ambition. So in a way, you can say that they even have that in common, as Troy has been signed to independent label BSB Records since the start of his career. So if we look at things from a commercial or mainstream focused lens, I would have to say no. 50 Cent is a global icon and among the highest selling rappers of all time. When I was a teen, 50's music was played on the radio all the time. It ain't all about sales for me though, so yeah, in a way you could say that Troy Ave followed 50's blueprint to a certain degree, and he is the new generation 50 Cent. But as I said in the beginning, 50 is not getting replaced. I'ma continue listening to both these artists, and I suggest you do the same. If you like 50, you're probably gonna get a similar feel from Troy. Now what do you think about the two? Should 50 have signed Troy Ave to G-Unit, or would it be too similar of a sound? Do you think Troy is just banking on nostalgia by having similar stylistic choices to 50? If you'd like to see more videos like this, then make sure to click that like button and leave a comment with what newer artists remind you of one of our rap events.